Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the fourth episode of Ben's Open Tabs, a space where basically we get to talk about all things tech, productivity, how it impacts our workflow. Honestly, just kind of whatever comes to mind. And really, it's a safe space to just share stories and sort of things happening in my world. Just honestly, I think a lot of, for me, Ben's Open Tab is about just raw human experiences and not about sort of filtered, polished, sort of the AI generated content that I think we're seeing a lot of these days, unfortunately. And so, yeah, so this is kind of the inspiration behind this. But for those new to the channel, hello, my name is Ben Hong. And so I'm a basically a SaaS developer experience engineer and on the Vue core team, Angular team, and just do a lot of work with open source. And so I've been building with the web for a long time, love tooling, and just, yeah, so basically here to just find time to talk about what it is that's been on my mind, things that I've noticed in the tech community, and getting to explore that together with you, and that way giving you a space as well for those who have questions or just want to see what it's like behind the curtain. Because a lot of times I do think one of the challenges I've found when looking at a lot of the content out there is that a lot of it either assumes a lot of knowledge or oftentimes just portrays a very idealistic version of what's happening behind the scenes, or like idealistic version of like what's happening when people are working on things. And so yeah, that's really kind of why we're here. So that said, for this particular episode, we're going to be focusing on something that actually has been on my radar for quite some time, and it's I believe, well, it's funny, there's two ways to pronounce this and I haven't yet figured out the official way, but it's, you could say Hermes if you're from like the Greek god perspective, but or there's the fashion pronunciation of Hermes. So I'm just gonna go and say call it Hermes for now, until I find out otherwise. I think Hermes is a very specific pronunciation from the fashion perspective. So Hermes has basically made a big splash. So when it comes to the AI world, as we're gonna assume some knowledge here in terms of like familiarity with AI agents like OpenAI, with Claude, and that kind of thing. And so harnesses have become a pretty big topic of conversation because while models like ChatGPT, Opus, Sonnet, Fable, all them, like those are interesting enough, and oftentimes I think it's where the bulk of discussion seems to be happening lately. There's really something to be said about the tooling that's happening you're using to really work with the model and how that impacts your workflow. Because while the model can impact sort of the quality of responses or how you're like the data that you're working with, there is as we all know, like really the developer experience, the user experience part of working with it can make a huge difference in terms of the output and what you actually get out of it. And so, yeah, so that's what we'll be talking about today. We'll be talking about Hermes. And so, yeah, let's go ahead and let me switch up a little bit. All right, switching. All right. So first thing first. So in terms of where my current existing workflow is, my general harness, the way I work with AI is through this tool called Conductor build. And so basically you see like a little preview of it right here. What's essentially happening is that on the left, you have a bunch of projects that you can manage. And so these are essentially individual Git repos. And then inside that, you can run basically these parallel sessions that allow you to basically say like, hey, for this agent, do this thing for this workflow. Then for this other agent, do this thing. And it does a great job in terms of like telling you like when it's done, so the notification works correctly, which maybe is not an obvious feature for some of you, but as someone who's tried working with AI agents directly inside of VS Code and even sometimes in the terminal, like sometimes the notifications would not fire reliably for me, even though I tried to debug it a few times. I really wanted the VS Code to work because I mean that's where I was doing all my coding, right? So it'd be nice to know when the coding agent was finished so that I could actually pay attention or switch context back. But unfortunately, I struggled with that a lot. But with Conductor, it works out of the box seamlessly. And so I'll get the little pop-up that's like, hey, this particular workflow is done, come check in on it. And so I have less lost time in terms of, finding out when something's actually done. And hey, Connor, how's it going? Good to see you. And so, yeah, so the other thing I really like about Conductor build is that it makes it easy to kind of work with the various models as well. So in this regard, for those who've used Copilot as well, that also can make it pretty nice because, you can come out here, basically you would click Sonnet, you would choose the model you're working with, And then it has like the UI is done really well. As you can see here, there's tabs up here. So you can have multiple tabs for basically just like working with different models for even the same kind of work. So in this particular case, like let's say you were working on, I guess let's use a screenshot just for comparison here, archive and repo details. Like you can actually have the work double checked. So like for example, I'll have Fable 5 running in one tab, and then I'll compare it to say GPT 5.6 Sol, and just to see kind of like the different responses and how they compare. And so that's been actually really interesting. And so Conductor build has done a really good job in my mind in terms of like elevating my expectations of what a harness can do when working with coding agents, because you are oftentimes sending agents off to do different things that you want to sort of collect data back as you're making decisions on what the next best thing to do is. And then on top of that, one of the things I do like about Conductor that I do want to call out is that there's like a fully integrated terminal inside of here. So you can basically run stuff, check things. And what it's essentially doing is creating a new, I believe, if I'm using the terminology correctly, a new Git workspace every time. So every time, for example, in this particular case, for the Conductor workspace, every time you start a new branch, essentially, it's actually creating a brand new folder inside of your computer that's separate from where let's say you cloned the repo originally. And then it's managing all that itself in terms of like, in this one, it's called like Kampala-v3. That's actually its own folder. So it's completely separate from whatever you might normally go to in your terminal to open a project. And so what's interesting about that is that you end up with this ability to really test out different things. And then the other thing that's really cool about this as well is that you end up having the ability to very easily see what changes are being made by the AI, which I think is actually arguably one of the most important things when working with AI agents and working through things, is actually seeing what exactly is happening. Because I do think while you could technically do this in VS Code, there were times where, I don't know, especially like with certain agents, I would find, especially if I was working on like the codex, like the terminal or whatever, it would just be like changes made, and I would have to jump through a bunch of hoops to figure out like from the chat to what change and that kind of thing. And I know that the UI has generally improved, like they've been trying to make that easier, but I would say Conductor build has made it really simple in terms of me being able to review stuff, see things in that regard. And so this to me is the standard. And honestly, at some point, I probably will want to do just like a dedicated video on like working with Conductor and that kind of thing for those who want to try it. But I just wanted to establish this as the baseline so that as we go through and look at Hermes, that anything that I'm referencing actually makes kind of sense when I'm comparing things. Okay, so with that baseline done, let's go ahead and talk about Hermes. Okay, so the Hermes agent. So this is a product of a team called, I believe, if I understand the pronunciation, it should be New. So the New Research Group, it looks like they're looking at American open source AI, which is awesome because one of the things with AI that, I think for those of us in tech, we often have to think about is reliance on third-party models, especially enterprise, can be very dangerous, especially given that we live in a time where I think a lot of legislation is still being decided and precedence is being set for what can and cannot be done. And more importantly, should something be violated, what the consequences actually are. I think open source AI is really important because the dependency on the enterprise models just puts us in a place where there's a vulnerability there, frankly. Because obviously we hope and that when these enterprise models are promising they're not training on our data, that they're not sharing it with our competitors, that is something we all desperately hope is actually being honored. But if we're being completely frank, like it's really hard to actually verify that. And to check whether that's happening or not, that somehow that your intellectual property didn't accidentally bleed into the training material, and that if a competitor decides they want to try to research your code base, that it's not accidentally revealing something that it's not supposed to. Like that would be an incredibly difficult thing to track at this point. And so I think this is why more and more tech teams who are trying to figure out how to augment their workflows with AI, having things like open source AI is very important because it really does allow better ownership and breaks up that sort of and provides more control back to the teams and really protecting their own data and privacy. So that said, so they have this. What's going on here? Okay, so they have this Hermes agent, and the tagline that everyone seems to talk about is that it says that it grows with you. And so that's an interesting thing to me, because one of the things that I've been exploring a lot with my own AI workflows is that, okay, it's cool. I have Claude Code or I have Codex. I'm working with the latest frontier models, but they're always left me a sense of like I am still at the whim of some other company deciding the experience of what's happening, and it's not tailored to the way I want to work. And so how can I do this in a way that's not completely boxing me into an ecosystem that doesn't like give me vendor lock-in, but still lets me really invest in my AI workflows. And honestly, it's just actually, I say AI workflow, it's just like my workflow in general, because no different that'd be almost like me saying that like, oh, like how do I integrate the internet into my workflow? Like the internet is just part of my workflow. I have preferred browsers and stuff like that, but like I would like the AI to be part of my workflow the way the internet is, in terms of like it's a resource that I have, but I get to tailor like what browser do I use, what do I prefer from like how it's laid out, all those kind of things. And so for my note taking community, like that's, I think the equivalent there too, is that what do we do when it comes to like how we capture, present our notes? How do we do that? And so how do we work with an AI in a way that grows with us over time so that we feel that we can keep investing in it and it'll actually compound as time goes on? Okay, so here we go. So it looks like this is like a little screenshot. So looks like there's a desktop agent. And okay, so looks like there's a window. I mean, this looks similar to me to Conductor build. And so you have different agents that you can start conversations with here that I'm assuming we're going to play around with it live, but I just want to get a sense mentally of like what we're looking at. And so you can pin chats. It looks like interesting. There's going to be artifacts, messaging, skills, and then a new agent. So this already actually is an interesting differentiator to me, because I would say that at least in Conductor build, I don't recall skills being like a dedicated configuration. And so this seems pretty promising on my end. And it looks like they have terminals, code build. That's nice. That's actually what I was hoping to see. And then, yeah, looks like they're walking through the skills. Oh, this is promising. I like this a lot. Because again, Conductor has been great, but I would like to figure out how to almost like customize it so that I can really customize the agent in a way that's like my own. And so right now, like I've worked through a couple of iterations of like my agent, quote unquote. And I will say I got a comment though. I did kind of like there was a kind of gaming references with the pixel, like 8-bit pixel stuff. I did like that. And so yeah, it looks like they have really interesting philosophy here in that, it looks like it lives everywhere. So it looks like we'd be able to interact with the agent using different texting and things. So that's super interesting to me, because then it means that it would give me more flexibility in terms of not just being at my computer and getting to own that. And so auto-generating skill never forgets how it solved the problem. I mean, I do think some of these claims are a little hyperbolic, because it's just AI is just non-deterministic. It's just what it is. Focused automation, sure. Natural language scheduling. I mean, I like this. Scheduling is great. Like if it helps with cron jobs and all that stuff. It can browse the web. It can multiply tasks, isolate sub agents. I mean, this is great. All paid tiers include monthly credit users. Okay, so this is something whenever I'm evaluating a tool, I'm always kind of curious about, is because how are they making money? What is like the plan? And so this is kind of interesting. So let's go ahead and see what it is exactly is going on. So here, free models, standard unit, rate limits, rollover cap 200 models, hosted tool uses, high rate limits. Okay. So use in Hermes agent, access to cutting edge tools. So does this mean that if I already have a plan, I can't use it? Let's see. So maybe they're saying this would replace, theoretically, I guess, I don't know. I guess we're about to find out, honestly. So, okay. So it looks like they have a plan for just basically having them be supported, which is good, because I do think whenever I see a product without a pricing model, I'm always kind of curious, like, okay, so what's the catch? And so that I would say for like full transparency is that like when you were looking at the Conductor, clearly they have, it looks like their plan is more of like running Conductor in the cloud. And I'm guessing they're probably going to be aiming for, I would guess, some sort of enterprise license so that people can basically work with Conductor in the cloud. And so it's interesting It's just, one of the things I do think about is with Conductor build, for example, I probably would have, for example, at least the value I've gotten so far, I would have happily paid for a license. And so I always like to look at where the pricing model is going to be, just to kind of give me a sense of what the team is prioritizing and what may change as a result. So, okay. Anyhow, we've gotten a brief overview of what Hermes does, and it sounds like sort of the promises seem good. So let's go ahead and just get it started, shall we? So I'm just going to download it for Mac OS. Oh. So I guess I do need a plan. All right, okay, let's start with the free one first, and then subscribe. Okay, I'm going to log in with my GitHub account. All right, let me do this login real quick over here. So I've logged in via GitHub now. All right, so we're subscribed, verifying the connection. Everything's good. Creating wallet. Everything's secured. Great. So it's signed in. All right, now I am signed in. Oh, interesting. So it's a subscription model. New chat. Okay. Again, I am all for supporting teams that provide value, but again, we're going to try this out for free right now. So let me go ahead and actually do the payment real quick separately, just in case anything gets leaked. Okay, so great. I'm now subscribed, and this is good. And then I'm not paying anything. Credits remaining this month. I'm not worried about that. I just want to play with it. Okay, so how do we do this? Again, the agent here, download for Mac OS. Here we go. Now it is downloaded. Maybe I did not need to do that setup, but it's fine. I am curious to see how this goes. Okay, so Hermes is in. Let's go ahead and fire Hermes up. Yes, I know. I installed it. All right, here we go. I don't think I can zoom in anymore. All right, this is the best we're gonna get. All right, here we go. So we're gonna install. Let's see, going through. I must say this is actually kind of a nice install prompt. Normally this installation just does not tell you what it's about to do. So I like this. This is already setting up a good experience for me to kind of get a sense of what I can expect. So it's downloading the agent, Python dependencies, browser tool dependencies. Okay, this is great. And so it's funny because basically the install thing we downloaded was just a script a bundle to download more stuff, which makes sense. It feels a little bit, it's funny. It feels a little bit like an npm install, right? Like you kind of download the executable, but really what it's doing is going out to fetch all the packages separately. So, which is definitely an interesting approach. Compared to like the old days, but like when software used to just be bundled all together, so they would just bundle all these dependencies and that's what you would download. And so maybe this way, if we think about it from like a user experience perspective, it's better in the sense that if you have like this giant installer that's like 3 gigs and then like the download fails for whatever reason, you are limiting your user from being able to actually basically get access to your software. So I think that's probably would explain why a lot of installers these days do kind of more of this broken approach. Because then worst case scenario is that like you can know that like, hey, I was able to download this number of steps and then probably do it a little bit more progressively. But anyhow, okay, great. Hermes is ready. All right, fantastic. Let's do this. So let's go and give it a launch. Okay. Launching, one-time setup. Okay, cool. Doing some dependencies and configuring. So this is almost like an additional npm install, funnily enough. Although it's funny as I say that, it says no dependencies. So it probably literally was running an npm install. And then it's connecting to a model provider. Okay. This is good. Happy so far. Desktop is ready. Great. Okay, here we go. So one subscription. Okay. So it sounds like that is the proposed, is that by having the portal, you basically is like the one thing you yeah, I guess it's the one thing you pay for. Whereas like right now, I'm paying for Claude as well as ChatGPT, so I pay for both of those separately, and so it is like it makes sense, right? They want to bundle it. My only concern ever, whenever I see that pricing model, is that certainly you're subject to, since they're selling the tokens, you're subject to either upcharge or, more importantly, I guess, I don't know. There are trade-offs to be made. That's for certain. Hey, dude, man, I see you in the chat. Yeah, so far the setup experience has been quite nice. Honestly, I wish I could zoom in more so that it's a little bit cleaner on the stream, but this is the best I can do at the moment. So okay, Quen XAI. I mean, this is great. Okay, so at some point, honestly, if Hermes proves to be a useful harness, knowing myself, I will probably end up joining the new portal, and there'll be streams, like content on that as well, because I do want people to learn about these kind of things and to see what it's like. But for now, I know for a fact that I actually have an Anthropic key, so I'm gonna go ahead and do that login as well. So give me a moment with that. Da, 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 da. Let's see. Google login. Up, up, up. Try another way. Let me do the let's do verification code, and then so many things to prove your identity these days. Okay, I think I did it. All right, so I have the Claude would like to connect to your chat account. I will authorize it. Okay, so now that we have it, great, I'm connected. Let's go ahead and begin. And okay, so first thing first, Hermes agent, ask a question, paste an error, point me at the repo. I can run code. Great, help you ship. Okay. So far, looking pretty good. Although, first thing first, I am curious. Do they have the ability? Let's see. So, this is my default. Oh, it's interesting. It's defaulting to Fable. Okay, I don't mind that, because right now I would rather sort of let Fable do its thing. I know that's kind of the model that not as many people have, so it's fun to kind of just see how far it can go. We will leave it on reasoning medium for now, just so that we don't burn too many tokens in case we try a bunch of random stuff. And so let's see, auxiliary models. What the heck? This is interesting. Web abstract compression, skills hub approval, MCP title gen curator. It's a lot. Before I do that though, the reason I'm here is because I'd like to switch it. Okay, that should be. Actually, is that easier to read on screen? Oh man, I wish. Okay, here UI scale. Actually, here, let's do this. Oh, much better. Finally. Okay, so the zoom is 125. I'm gonna. It's funny, they call it dark mode, but I'm not sure this contrast is actually that. Actually, this should be fine for now. Okay, we're gonna leave it for now. If people notice anything or they're really having trouble reading it, maybe in the future I'll change the light. But for now, I think the white was just a lot for my eyes, so we're gonna stick with this for a second. Okay, so let's not get too crazy. Let's actually just start doing something. So in this sense, I think what I'm gonna do is let's go ahead. What should be something we can do together? All right, I'm gonna open a new project. What does that mean? So let's call it just like Okay, we're gonna call it Ben Zen. So we're gonna add my website to it. Okay, what folder we're gonna add? This is great. So I'm gonna go ahead and come inside my projects, and I'm gonna do my Ben Zen website, which is here. And then what's this project about? This is my personal website. Okay, API wrapper. Oh, interesting. You can like tag stuff. Oh, they have templates. Oh, that's gonna be fun. Okay, we should play with that for sure. All right, so let's just go ahead and create that. So we have this new project called Ben Zen. Okay, this is good. A new session in Ben Zen. Great. It's on the main branch right now. Ask anything, and there's a bunch of different workplaces. Oh, in different work trees. Okay. Oh, you can read replies out loud. Oh, fascinating. You know what? Let's try this. let's see. Yes. All right. Let's try this. Can you create a technical architecture diagram of the site? End. Let's see. Did I lose the microphone? Can you create a can you create a technical Can you create a technical architecture document of the site? All right, I'm playing around with the feature I clearly don't totally understand. It's fine. So let's just have to do this. Create. Whoa, what just happened? DNS. Oh, it looks like maybe the dictation took a second. Weird. MCP terminal. Reading the idea diff. That's not what I want to know. Okay, I'm gonna stop this real quick. Create a technical architecture diagram of how my site currently works. Okay, so while it's doing that, we're gonna start to show some of the other things that I mentioned. So in the separate one, let's say the question is like, I'd like to explore creating a featured media widget, or let's say like actually a media log page to showcase books and let's say shows that I'm watching. And so what you're going to see here is that you can start creating parallel threads in terms of what is going on. And I do think, so this to me is actually very, very similar to what my experience is generally with when it comes to Conductor. And so this will be a project, and then you can then add another project. So for example, if I want to be like, okay, the Vue docs, I could add the folder for my Vue docs project, which is like here. Oh, great. Okay, notifications. This is good. I'm gonna allow it because that's actually what that's very important to me as well that I found. This is the repo for the Vue official Vue docs, and then we'll create that. And then inside of here, we can say something like, for now, like, what, again, just for testing it out, what are some of the latest issues we can work on? So, let's see, it's presented from modifying stuff. It's fine. We wanted to let it modify. Let's see. Update or delete other applications. That sounds suspicious. I'm gonna leave that alone for now. Okay, so then it's working through that. So it's going through that. Boom, boom, boom. So you can see here that there's like this, like, oh, okay, I believe this yellow is telling me that it's done. Okay, great. So good news. You have the bones of this. There's a media log page. Interesting. Okay. But then what is this capability section? Okay, here we go. Capabilities. This is new then. So they've updated it since their... Oh, this is fascinating. So what is this? On? No, this is on. Architecture diagram. Apple Notes reminders. Whoa, this is extensive. Excalidraw. Wait a second. How much of this is mine? Humanizer, do they have the skill I installed? YouTube content media Yuanbao. I don't even know what this is though. Mentions users, query info members. All right, how do I disable unused? Node inspector debugger. So these are all things that come built in. But the question is, so I recently tried the I have ADHD skill, but it's not in here clearly. So that's interesting. Tooling inside of here, file operations. What does this 10x mean? Maybe the number of times it's been used? One tools, cron jobs, home assistant. Wow, this thing goes deep. Spotify, video analysis, video generations. Holy smokes. It's even Twitter search. MCP. Okay, that's good because MCPs were kind of a pain to manage, I found, in the other ones. Hubs, so CLI integration. Wow. I mean, this is impressive. What is this messaging? Okay, so apparently you can set up. Okay, so this is something for sure that it's not, at least as far as I'm aware, is not in Conductor build, and that's the ability to talk with it directly. And so this would be fun to play with. That I would need to actually do the setup. So this will take a bit of, this will take a bit of authentication. If I get it set up, it'll be fine. But that's something I'll have to play with and see. But okay, so couple things. So one, let's go back. So a couple things have happened. We went, wait, we're in messaging right now. Running, turn elapse, site. Okay. So it's interesting. We can actually, I just noticed there's a toolbar down here at the bottom. Versioning, terminal, approval mode. What does that mean? Automatically assess actions and ask when needed. Ask actions before require approval. So basically plan mode versus action mode. Run without approval prompts. Yeah, okay, we'll leave it at smart. That's fine. Runtime session elapse. This one. Oh, interesting. It's almost like saying how long I've been sitting in it, because if I switch the timer, it always resets. Not sure how useful that is. Open context usage breakdown. So, oh, I like this a lot. This is great. Seeing how much of it is system prompt, tools definitions, skills, sub-agent definitions, conversation. Oh, that's awesome. Okay, I like that. Cron jobs. New cron. Oh, interesting. Yeah, so briefings and that kind of thing. I don't mind this, but I've always wondered about cron jobs using AI agents, because it feels like any cron job that's using an AI agent has a risk of being a bit token inefficient, only because, I mean, it's just, for example, so here's an example I might have. It'd be like, check the view docs, see what the latest issues are, and like prioritize them. And so one could argue like that seems like a perfect job for the AI. But I wonder from a cost perspective what that would ultimately boil down to. And so it's something I would probably want to play with a little bit. But this is interesting, because then it's interesting. Look, you can even deliver it. So you can have it texted to you. Wow, that's okay. I mean, this is pretty cool. It's starting to like let me think about other ways of automating workflows with AI. And so I like how Hermes is like really giving you a chance to explore different workflows that just otherwise are essentially gated behind gated behind like whether or not a company releases the tooling. And so this is pretty cool. Frequency, I mean, this is great as far as cron job goes. And then, okay, sure, media log here. This one, you have the bones on this. Oh, yeah, I read this with you. And then, oh, site technical. Here we go. So this one, yeah, so it's interesting. So how it works, it went through, created a document. And so it go ahead, what it maps. I mean, it's funny. We were just talking, or not we were just talking. Earlier, I was exploring the ADHD skill, which I'll be releasing a video separately on for that. And it does remind me. It's funny how I think I'm noticing how verbose. I mean, this amount of reading never bothered me, but I wonder if I'd used the ADHD skill, how much better it would have been. So the question is now, however, so I want to open this file. How do I get to it? Okay, here we go. They have a link for it. Fantastic. And they created one. Wow, that's actually pretty impressive. Whoa, what just happened there? All right, whoops. Oh, I accidentally opened Figma. That's what happened. The next for website, this is accurate. 3.5 composables, Nitro server with Ghost API members, Ghost CMS. I mean, this is good. It's funny if we look underneath it all. Yeah, they just did a bunch of SVGs that are pointing to it. I would say that's pretty impressive. And now that I think about it, I would be very curious to explore how. See, I'd be very curious to explore. Right, I need to open Hermes. So now we have this. It did that. I'm gonna take this prompt that we have right here, and we're gonna open up Conductor. And let me see. Let me see. We're gonna open up Conductor over here, and then I want to create a brand new. Let's see, and this time we're gonna do also with Fable 5, and then to be fair, we're gonna make this medium. I'm gonna let this run now. Okay, so it's gonna run here. So this has more of a traditional dark theme on Conductor. You can see here. The blue is an interesting choice from Hermes. I think it's a branding thing, but if I were to already say I'll have to look into this when I get back to Hermes. But I hope they eventually allow some configuration on the color scheme to allow just that personalization. Because something I really just prefer like just the black in terms of contrast and that kind of thing. So yeah, curious to see how this goes. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna let this run on the side because it's reading, it's doing thing, loading context. And so, okay, here's my prediction. My prediction is that the architecture diagram that will exist, that Conductor will create, despite using the same model, will not be as good as the one that Hermes just created. And the reason for that is because Hermes, when we looked at its capabilities earlier, it mentioned something very specifically about technical architecture diagrams, which, as far as I'm aware, is not built in or configured inside of Conductor. And so we can see here, Conductor here again. There we go. Figma generate diagram. It's using the architecture document that exists. Okay. All right. Anyways, we're going to let this run because who knows how long it's going to run. And I don't want y'all just staring at this the entire time. So instead, so looking at Hermes again. So this is cool. It created a nice one. It did a deploy pilot. It opened it. Ad hoc verification. Okay. So now that we've done all this, it's kind of interesting. I need to play with another thing, if in case you hadn't heard, is there is a trend going on within the developer community about people who don't type their code anymore. They just talk to their agents, and then they just, everything is voice. I am highly skeptical of that claim. Not saying because it's not possible, but it just seems just rather extreme to basically claim that you only need your voice to do it all, and that it would not be just cheaper or more effective, let alone it might even be more efficient to just get your hands on the keyboard. And I understand we live in a world of social media where, clickbait posts, like we're looking for views and that kind of thing. This is one of the reasons why this space, I wanted to create this space, is because that's just doesn't align with me from a values perspective. And I'd rather tell you what I find that's actually practical in the long run, even if it's not the most clickbaity thing. And so, yeah, so if at some point we'll play around more with voice when I get it. I mean, obviously it did not work earlier when we tried to play with conversation, but clearly the functionality is here in Hermes. So that I do find pretty interesting. So anyhow, so yeah, it's interesting. So here we had it run a thing, it went through. Here are some issues that it found, and it triaged. It tried to summarize it. Infra issues, update style guide. Yep. So cool. And then, it looks like Conductor just finished. So let's bring that back over. And so what did it do? It did a diagram, and it opens in FigJam. So here we go. It opens in Figma. What? All right, hold up. Let me log in real quick. BRB. Whoop. Back. So many logins. Okay. All right, now that it's logged in. Okay, so interesting though. This time it decided to go the Figma route. And yeah, this is basically what I thought. So it's fine, ish. But I really like the fact that Hermes actually, again, to be clear, to be clear about what I'm mentioning here, is that inside of its capabilities, they already have a skill that's designed to create architecture diagrams. Though funny, it's already opinionated to be dark themed, and that it so that's kind of funny to me. But anyhow, okay, so cool. It has a bunch of stuff in here. Great artifacts. Oh, this is cool. So it went through, created a bunch of stuff. It interesting that these are considered artifacts. So these are just like repo things that it went to grab. But I guess they're saying it's the stuff they grab, links, files. Huh. Okay. So yeah, so oh, here's something that I didn't even notice, but it looks like they allow you to toggle between like just having all your sessions running at a given time or grouping it via projects. That's something I do like because I will say when I first saw the Hermes screenshot where it showed all of the sessions, I was a little concerned at first regarding what if I want multiple projects and how that would work. It was all together, but that wasn't the case at all. And so yeah, so oh, okay, they even have profiles for the different. Oh, they call it a soul.md. This kind of dovetails into something I was exploring as well in terms of like what exactly is important to me about the agent that I'm working with. And so it's cool. I can appreciate the idea of a soul inside of this, so that's interesting. And then the profile changes as well too. So profiles is another thing I was considering also, because I do think when it comes to working with agents, there are different modes you want it to work in. And so some examples of that in my mind include things like whether it's like in like teacher mode, like you're trying to learn something. So having it slant towards asking you questions, reinforcing learning, that kind of thing, giving you opportunities to do it, rather than say more of like a like there's like assistant mode where it actually does things for you, for example. And so, and then other times where I think another mode I have is basically like I call it co-pilot mode, but essentially it's more of like working like a coworker, right? Because there are times you just want to talk through things, you don't want it to necessarily tell you what it like. So it's more of like a collaborator type mode. And so, anyways, these are things to document and share over time. But I just thought I'd share with it as we go, kind of the space for it. But yeah, so honestly, this stuff is pretty great. And then we didn't honestly. Okay, you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna go ahead and say, actually, this is actually gonna be interesting. Create a media log page for me. Okay. So to be clear, this is not how I would typically work because I really generally prefer to be more hands-on in terms of like requirements, in terms of understanding how things are going. But I'm just gonna let it do its thing because I kind of just want to test some stuff out here. And let's see. So there is a layout editor. Oh my lord. Okay. So it lets you do previews and stuff. Terminal deck, quad, focus. I mean, this is great. And then they let you even do new grid layouts. What is this? Can I do this? And then rows priority. What? This is crazy. Rows. Oh my gosh. This is great. What a great little editor they built. Oh my gosh. Okay, and then you can save the layout too. I mean, this is cool. Wow. Okay. Points to Hermes for that. So I got distracted. Where was I? Oh, yeah, it's doing its thing. That's fine. So, layout editor, mute haptics. I guess like when I click on buttons. Keyboard shortcuts. Okay, focus, composer, model picker. All right, so these are essentially your hotkeys. I assume there's a command. Actually, I just saw a command palette / command palette. Okay, so you're saying that if I do, that's not what I want. Ah, here we go. So they have your usual command K for your different things, which is nice. Spawn tree, memory graph. All right, great. No complaints there. Settings is here as expected. Now again, appearance is, oh, I'm so, okay. For those who are probably yelling at me at the time, it looks like, yeah, of course there are themes. I was literally focusing on this part. Okay, this is way better. Yeah, I'll just do it with the green accent. So this is good. And then VS Code Marketplace. Oh, that's smart. Wait, will this work? So Night Owl, if I did it like this. Oh, now that is smart. That is impressive. So now it's doing all Night Owl stuff. Oh, that's well done. Well done, team. My hat off to the Hermes team for thinking about this stuff. Chat backdrop, tool call display, pet Oh, interesting. That floats over the app and reacts to what Hermes is doing. Reacts to what I don't. So it's funny. I think at one point, Claude tried to do something like this with pets, and people were. I don't know if it was true. They were like afraid that it would cost token usage to do so, and so this is kind of interesting. I mean, let's just play with it. I mean, sure. Let's go with Boba, and let's see what Boba does. Boop boop boop. Oh, Boba's right here. All right, so Boba's doing his thing. Cool, cool, cool. And we can make Boba a little bit bigger. Huh. Okay, prompt penguin. That's another one I might want to try. Roam. Can it roam? What? Okay. All right, let's just see. We're gonna let that play around. Okay, so that's doing this thing. It's still running and building stuff. All right, so here is the thing I've been holding off on. I don't know why I held off on it. But this is the other part that I mentioned with Conductor that I really liked, is that there's essentially built-in IDE. I think is a bit strong because it's not actually doing it's not a full code editor from what I understand. And so here, for example, like if we look at this, like we can see it inside of here. And so this is the file that is powering that architecture diagram that we looked at, but we can edit it. So we can come here and make changes. So that's not the thing. So if I were coming out here and I was just like new change, save, I mean, that is there as expected. And then, so let's see, this is refresh tree. Okay, can I close this now? Oh, close. All right, so now this is where, whoa. Logs, terminal. Okay, that was clean. Terminal, so here, looks like it's fire. Oh, is it not going to? I was expect. So I assume that a terminal session is supposed to start inside of here, but I don't see anything at the moment, which is a little unsettling because runner data. Wonder why. And so here we go. Oh, okay. So they have a review tab. I was wondering where that part was. So can I drag this into this? Nope. Okay, so here we go. You'll notice here that it's gone ahead and made all these different changes, and which is good. And though it's funny, I think I have to, let's see, how do I check its changes? Down here? Nope. Oh, yeah, I have to double click it. And then it'll show me down here that it made a change to the publish time and check that. Okay, that's fine. The only thing, though, that I'm a little concerned about is why the terminal itself is not being queued up. So we have this here. Yeah, we're opening that. That's cool. Wow, it's doing a lot of work over here. How long has it been running now? A minute? It's not terrible. Okay, so yeah, effective engineer, content. I mean, this is great. And then let's see, view as list. Okay. Update ready. See what's new. Is that okay. We're not gonna update the thing just yet. Refresh tree, revert all, stage all. Okay, so it really is working off of main right now. The question is, if I wanted to branch off of it, how would that even work? So I'd have to manually kick off a new branch from main. That's an interesting. Convert a branch. Huh. That leads me to wonder. So it looks like it gives you a different. Yeah, so this is actually pretty interesting. It's able to see different new branch from main. It's also to see all this stuff. So then it's done the thing, it looks like. Nope, still running. Yeah, that's pretty interesting to me because now it's basically doing everything off the main branch, which means then, right? So if I come inside my terminal, cd projects ben kozen, and then we look at the status of this. Yeah. So in this case, we see that Hermes is actually working directly on the Git branch. So it's actually in the project now that you're working on. So that's interesting to me because at least by default, when I've worked with Conductor up until this point, every time you start work inside of a project, it defaults to creating a new work tree, which essentially means it copies the folder and does something new with it and sets up on a different branch. And so I will say so far, Hermes has been pretty impressive. I'm just a little concerned about this part. So, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop this for now because, again, we've gotten to see the changes it's made. We're able to look at the sidebar. So I'm going to go ahead and just reboot Hermes real quick. So let's go ahead. Oh, there you go. That's what it's wondering. So there you go. That's kind of cute. I mean, I imagine that's a processor thing. I can't imagine tokens are being spent on this. But anyways, the pet thing I'll probably eventually turn off. Okay, so I turned that off. And then I'm rebooting Hermes. So let's go ahead. Coming in, it's connecting. Great. It got interrupted. That's totally fine. So now if we look at the terminal now. Oh, okay, here we go. So for whatever reason, it was glitching out, but that's fine. Great. This is exactly what I want. So I can see everything inside of here. This is awesome. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to check out a branch, and I'm going to call it like, I'm just going to call it AI media page just so I know it's not something I did. Cool, like cool. This is all the stuff that it's done. Like I can run everything I need here. And in my worst case scenario, I could run code dot. That's like an alias, like a little command I have inside of my terminal. And so it allows me to like bring this up, and so it has everything here. Then we can still like do our git diffs here. So if it's looking at the changes, it's clearly taking a second, but a lot has changed. And then we can still get back inside my normal workflow. So now if I go ahead, it looks like, let me see. So there theoretically is a media log.view. And so actually it did not finish. I'm not even gonna bother, but you know, I can spin up the instance, go ahead and check it. And so I do like this a lot because if we're now back inside of, yeah, so you see here, every time, at least in Conductor, every time I start something new, it defaults to a new workspace rather than, yeah. So that's so interesting because Hermes almost works the way I would kind of want more so. I mean, there's something to be said about the exploration between whether or not it makes sense to do a work tree versus working directly off of the project folder. But I do think, that's an interesting that we have to, yeah, that's an interesting point of analysis to think about in terms of like which workflow makes more sense, work trees versus just branching off of main, which is what I believe most of us are doing for the large part when we're working on things. We don't really want to create like a brand new folder that has everything that's self-contained. And granted, I think part of the reason this is the case though is because actually as I'm talking about it aloud, is that the work trees allow, I think, better parallelization so that the work does not conflict. So for instance, like we had to do a technical architecture in this case, and it also went in and did a bunch of stuff here that made changes to like, I guess like media. Oh, interesting. They didn't color these, but I did like this, that like this is orange because this is chain, this is green because this is new. Like I like this. This is great. But yeah, I mean, honestly, I think generally speaking, it looks like the Hermes agent is really the harness that I've been using this whole time. But I think the difference here being that, can I hide this now? Great. Basically being that it has a lot more integrations than what I've been using as far as Conductor build and its ability to actually get into things like messaging. Now, the only thing I probably want to actually check out once before. Okay, so I can, that's kind of cool. They make it like, although did I just like, I can like move this too. I didn't expect that. Wait, stay still. Is that I don't think it does not have access to my Claude skills. So that delegate coding to Claude Code CLI, Claude Design. So this is where I actually now question things a little bit in terms of, I think, a changes apply to new sessions, tools. I mean, I like these, but how do I customize this part? These are hubs. All right, so let's do this quick exploration because I think this is at least the way I envision using Hermes is that I would be able to actually create my own skills. Oh, what happened? Dude. Oh, wait, here we go. Sure, new research. Yep, that's fine. Using integrations. Let's see. API MCP, guides, tutorials, ultra free tutorial team assistant, use Soul with Hermes. I'm fine with this. Voice mode, automate anything with Cron. I like all this stuff. Okay, working with skills. Uh-huh. Okay. That's what I thought we did, but that's fine. Let's go ahead and test this out real quick. So if I did a new session and I did skills, yeah, it's not that in any chat session, do skills. That is not working. Skills hub, skill browse. Hermes skills install. Plugins can provide their own skills using namespace skills, configuring skills settings, creating your own skills. Okay, so it looks like this is possible. There is a directory we could create for the skill, write the skill MD file, metadata, add reference files, test it. Okay. Drop it in and it's live. Can also update with skill manage. Okay, but once again, we see this together. Skin, skills. Okay, here we go. Here are some of its existing skills, but I don't. Yeah, weird. Did they change this aspect of? Wait, I gotta disable this pet. Appearance off. Skills check. Skills is managed from the desktop sidebar. Okay. Capabilities, skills. But it doesn't say anything about adding. Changes applied in new sessions. I mean, unless Hermes skills are here. Productivity note taking. That's fine. So let me just do it real quick. We're gonna call this test skill, and we're gonna put this inside of here, and then I'll just. Oh, they call it description. How interesting. All right, I'm just gonna copy this one real quick, and then we're gonna go ahead and just modify this real quick. Test skill. Okay, now is it inside of here? Oh, wait, test skill is here. Huh. Okay. Let me turn on, turn off. So then you were saying that if I were to go into a new session and test skill. Okay. Interesting. The only thing, yeah, I don't know why they took away that command. This contrast is a little low, but okay. So we have proven that you can 100% add skills and manage it yourself. It's just a little more. How do I say this? A little more manual than I expected. I expected the developer experience to be a little bit cleaner on that part, but again, there's always opportunities for improvement. There's obviously a lot they offer already with this, and at least as far as I can tell, the Hermes agent on its own is already providing a lot of benefits. And the fact that you can connect your own models to it too is great. And so this is pretty awesome, I will say. But yeah, yeah, let's go ahead and swap on over. Okay. So we got to take a look today at the popular Hermes agent, which again, it's more of it says agent. It's like a harness. It allows you to harness with some customization of like your own skills and stuff. And so this to me is probably what personally I've been looking for more so out of my own AI workflow, is to start breaking away from enterprise tools that have more vendor lock-in principles, and thinking more from like an open source perspective of like, okay, like Hermes seems to have a lot of principles that I do like in terms of what you would expect out of tooling when it comes to working with multiple agents, how it interacts with your different projects. And then more importantly, the other thing I really like about it is that, again, you can connect whatever models you want to it. And they do have a way to support it through subscribing to the new models, which is great. And so that should be a fun thing to explore at some point. But most importantly of all is I think it gets you thinking about workflows and ways to improve your agents in a way that's vendor agnostic. And so I like the fact that the skills just exist as part of the Hermes overall workflow, as opposed to like, so one of the things, for example, I ran into when I was working with Claude Code is that I would try to create skills in Claude Code, and then if I had to switch over to Codex or whatever, it just felt clunky because it just either wasn't in the right space, it wasn't shared correctly. And so I have wasted more time than I care to admit trying to figure out how to unify those things through symlinks and that kind of thing. And this is one of the times where I'm starting to be like, okay, if this is how this could work, then perhaps there is a world where I could have a repo of my own. And so right now, for example, like the agent I've been trying to customize and build all this time has been called, I named that agent Nika. And so Nika has like some of the skills that I try to use, personas and that kind of thing. But I've always wondered, like, how do I get it in a way that it can just interact with any model? And it looks like harnesses like Hermes are going to be key to that, because if I can get Hermes configuration set up to be synced to what I track on my own private repo for Nika, then that would allow me now to like be fully agnostic in terms of like, if Hermes were to one day disappear for whatever reason, and then they come up with a different harness model that lets me hook up to whatever it needs to, then I can at least point all the stuff and I have my own stuff version control that's separate from the vendor itself. So anyhow. All right. Well, I think that's a wrap for this particular episode of Ben's Open Tabs. Hope you had fun kind of exploring Hermes with me. And then if you haven't tried tooling like this, again, I know that people's office environments, there might be limitations on what kind of tooling, but so far, honestly, Conductor build that I mentioned, as well as this Hermes agent, are both really, to me, where the kind of UX DX workflow that I see more and more of this tooling going towards, just because it really starts to provide a more holistic view of things while still playing well with the rest of your tooling. So again, I would not claim that this is a VS Code replacement. It's not a replacement for your terminal. Like there's a time and place for the Swiss Army knife to do all that. And then there are times where we need like just the specialty tools. And so again, this is more of like bringing it all together in a way that doesn't feel like you have to constantly keep checking and managing things on your own, especially from like a Git perspective as well, that you can automatically branch, you can do whatever, you can create work trees, and it just automates those pieces for you. So you can focus on the important part, which is solving the problem and getting to what you want. So, all right. Well, it's been fun. I will not be streaming next week. So whatchamacallit? So yeah, so for anyone's watching the live recording, so they won't be streaming next week, but I'll be resuming on Wednesday, August 5th, I believe. And then in the meantime, but as always, check out the YouTube channel for the latest recordings. Nowadays I try to do a little bit of an edit on it, just kind of keep it a little bit more succinct. But then also we'll be coming out with some more dedicated content as well. That's not live stream content on the channel, so be sure to check that out. And otherwise, I'm trying to think. Yep, and then I think that's the main thing. Actually, let me check one more thing. Yes. Uh, oh yeah, yeah. Here we go. And then finally, for those of you who I know I've been talking about it a lot, or so for those of you who have followed some of my past work, and I know at one point I was talking about like Obsidian materials and resources. Excited to kind of also let you know that there is some stuff definitely that I'll be announcing soon. One of it is that for those of you who are looking to get started with Obsidian, or you know someone who's interested in Obsidian, I'll be doing a whole lightning talk on it, sort of like getting people ramped up on Obsidian. Basically, it's supposed to be essentially like an Obsidian Essentials in less than an hour, and so that'll be done on the Maven platform, Maven. And so I'll do my part to make sure those are shared on social media and all that thing. So in case you wanted to follow or share that with other people, that'll be on there. But yeah, just want to let you know about that. But otherwise, yeah. This has been fun, everyone, and I guess I'll see you in a couple of weeks. Bye!